start.
I am ready to rock and roll. In my notes. Ready when you are, Kelly? Okay. Well, a very good morning and welcome to all, and online welcome to Mike Ferguson.
He hasn't been admitted.
Oh, do you want to let him in?
No, we'll wait till he.
Okay, well, because I'm going to do this introduction, so. And thank you all for attending, and thank you for all our submitters to the hearings on the Mangawhai Community Park Master Plan. Mike, can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Good man. Well, welcome. Well, you know, for those who are here, we'll do a quick introduction for you by way of welcome. So submitters know who they are speaking to, and starting from far right over here, Phil Johnson, a member of the Mangawhai Community Park Governance Team. Daniel Halls, also same on the governance team. Councillor Rachel Williams. I think everybody knows Jenny from the council, and over here, Marianne Boyd, who is the chair of the Mangawhai Community Friends of the Park, and Kelly Ockwell here is our governance advisor, and myself, of course. So welcome all, and thank you for your attendance. I'll go through the agenda, and just want to note apologies, and I'll record an apology of Ron Manderson. So can we? I'll move that. Do I have a seconder? Thank you, Rach. All in favour? Aye. So to confirm the agenda, now I'll move that the Mangawhai Community Park Governance Committee confirms the agenda for the hearing held today, the 21st of May 2024. Can I have a seconder, please?
Yeah.
Thank you, Marianne. Were all those in favour, please say aye. Thank you. Next point, conflict of interest declaration. Now, I read this for all members. Committee members are reminded of the need to be vigilant to stand aside from the decision making when a conflict arises between their role as a committee members and any private or other external interests they might have. It is also considered best practice for those members to the executive team attending the hearing to also signal any conflicts that they may have with an item. So do we have any conflicts of interest to declare? No conflicts of interest.
One, I'm a personal friend of Mike, that's all.
Okay, noted. Yes.
So you know.
Okay, thank you, Phil. So that is noted. So we move now to move that this Mangawhai Community Governance Park Committee notes that the written submissions received to the draft Mangawhai Community Park Master Plan, and notes that the presentations made by those submitters who choose to be heard. The committee will then hear from each of the 5 submitters today who have indicated that they want to be heard. So can I have a seconder, please, for that motion? Thank you, Phil. All those in favour?
Aye.
Please say aye. So to our submissions, and again, I want to reiterate our appreciation for all of those who have submitted, and especially those who are attending today. And our first submitter online is Mike Ferguson. Mike, you will have 5 minutes, and when Kelly rings the bell, sounds a bit like the chase, doesn't it? So that will be in a couple of seconds. Just a note for the panel that our role here today is to listen and take on board the points made and to ask any questions, but to not provide any comment. all right, or attitude or the like. So it is just a matter of question. So without further ado, welcome to the stage, Mike Ferguson. We're working well. You there, Mike?
Oh, kia ora tātou whānau. Hopefully you can hear me now.
We can.
The reason I'm speaking on behalf of my submission was to cover the three main points that were raised by a number of people to me and also my personal views. And then the fact that as the park has grown, we have more and more people involved with the park who have varied interests but are relatively new to the community. And some of the kaupapa of the park's founding, the way it was gifted, and the way the community saw it is often being overlooked. So my first part of that three is the question that involved putting the community hub or library in the park. 2/3 of the park's current recreational space from on its original concept is actually taken up by the golf club. The remainder of the park now is starting to struggle with the large amount of interest groups that are already interacting in the park. When you go down there at the moment, there's not enough skating space. They are struggling at the moment with the tennis court. To put in another facility that takes up valuable space of recreation, that's essentially a community hub, would be far better put in the so-called Mangawhai Central Community Hub or in other developments that are around. The question in the submission was very slanted, and a number of submitters I spoke to said, yes, we saw value in a community hub or a library, however, the location. In the time since the Mangawhai Park's been developed, we've seen the museum expand to over 3 times its original footprint. We've seen the rescue services have no other place to go and be gifted land. We've seen the wastewater system being put in there, and we've seen the continual encroachment on the usable space for recreation. I firmly believe that this should be the recreational hub now, that no more development of other than a recreational facilities should be placed in the park. The second part of my submission was the allowance of future commercial operators. We currently have essentially 2 commercial operators, being the museum, if you take the cafe, and the small Maz cafe. It fits into the existing structure and the kaupapa of that area. There shouldn't be any more commercial operators. You know, a commercial operator on reserve land should be playing commercial leases where they're best located. And the last part of my submission was, increasingly as we look at the park being Maz, we forget the golf club next door, and that all future planning should intertwine the two. There's quite a disconnect, particularly in the pathways. There's a disconnect in the traditional recreational use of the fringes of the golf club that are now no longer available to the community. And this should be looked at as part of the overall park's vision, and not as one separate entity from the other. So the two are intertwined and joining. So they are the 3 main points of my submission. Firstly, any more community facilities such as a community hub should be placed elsewhere in the community, and we start ring fencing what we have for recreational users. The second thing, that there be no further commercial activity. And lastly, that all future plans incorporate and integrate the recreational use of the fringes of the golf course with the park itself. So that's my submission, team.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you, Mike. So I'll ask the panel for any questions. Mr. Mayor.
My apologies to Samara.
Any question? Well, I'll start. I do have one, and thank you, Mike. On point 1, And you talk about any community hub activities, etc., should be in Mangawhai Central. So are you suggesting that you're happy for the council to buy land in Mangawhai Park, so commercial property, to facilitate that?
In the park itself, no.
No, you said in Mangawhai Central, so you are
Correct.
happy for the council to purchase land for that purpose in Mangawhai Central?
I think whether it be Mangawhai Central or elsewhere in the new developments, I think that money was put aside for the community hub on what through that Three Waters for the provision of either purchase of land, which in my personal opinion starts future-proofing further facilities for the community. Just the way that the existing Mangawhai Library, the Village Hall, and those areas were put in place for the future of the community. So my submission was about the park, being that the park wasn't a place for the community hub. But in answering your question, yes, I believe we should be future-proofing future community facilities by purchasing land, whether it be the community hub or something more suitable. That's up for the community to decide, but it shouldn't be in Mangawhai Park.
Okay, thanks. And if I may, one other question. On point 3, regarding the golf club, just for clarity, are you in your submission saying that we should have more or look towards having more of our walkways linking into and through presumably the boundaries of the golf club?
Yes, so the golf club have become essentially a fenced off privilege for a few. And when you look at its return to the community, given its space, it doesn't offer a lot other than the fact of those golfers wishing to play there. When I was a kid, we could run around there after times. People exercised and walked. We mushroomed over that space. And since it's become more and more in the last 18 to 20 years into the club it's become, not only has large parts of the ground, particularly that in the Thelma Road, become overgrown and abandoned, but the recreational use of the general community is not allowed. So for me, there are other public golf courses that have walkways, cycleways around the extremities and link the golf course as a big part of the recreational part of the community. And I'm saying we should be seriously looking at it. And there is provision in there. There's enough room along the northern boundary to put a safe walkway cycle track that would link through to Thelma Road, and that we look at the golf course being 2/3 of the original reserve area as being integrated into the existing Mangawhai Park and not seen as a standalone that sits on the outside of it. So as we improve the walking tracks, as we improve parking, as we improve access, let's go back to the community being able to use particularly those fringes. I'm not talking about the golf course, that's a different scenario, but the fringes of that are still large areas that are underutilized and should be integrated into part of the park.
Okay, thanks, Mike. Anybody else? Daniel.
Hey, Mike, could I just ask if you would have any flexibility in your stance on the commercial area or the community hub if that area was able to help fund the charitable entities within the park, like Maz Pioneer Village?
Well, the thing is, if you were serious about, yes, I would, because once again, we have a limited amount of space. And when you take that and you include the development cost and the parking, the cost to the overall community is actually quite large. It's far better in a place where there is better access. At the moment, if I was down there on Sunday getting my bacon buddy and my coffee, the car park was already filled by 9 o'clock in the morning. You're talking about limited space. If you were serious about looking for a commercial ability, the golf club on its last charity report, returned $365,000 profit, of which zero went back into the community. The club, on the other hand, put $265,000 over the same reporting period. If you were serious about returning to MAS in the park, you would look at the club and the golf club and have a percentage of revenue go back into the park, and that would cover nearly all the development of the park. It would total something close to $600,000 a year.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, thank you, Mike. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
your submission.
Cheers.
Good. So next, we will welcome Martina Tursky.
Jackie. It's a hard name. Kokoto. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to the Mangawhai Park plan. In my opinion, this park is the most important asset our community has, apart from the inlet and the surf beach, especially in light of Mangawhai turning into a substantial town with more and more tiny sections. It is situated very centrally in the heads and well linked with footpaths and should have the status of a reserve, as its current status is unprotected. The council of the day could allow buildings or other infrastructure to be built tomorrow, and a substantial amount of land has already been cleared and transformed, and not all for the better. Now, I have sort of been thinking about this library issue, but to be honest, I've changed my mind. I actually think too that it's not in the right place. There's a lot of pressure on this piece of land already. So I think it's a very good idea. The council must be taking in lots of rates with all the new sections coming on. So I totally support Mike if we buy a piece of land somewhere else, whether that's down in Ulrich Park or, you know, whatever, but not at MAS, please. And I've also got a little problem with more parking. I actually think we have taken up a lot of precious land for car parks, and it seems wasteful to me, as for most of the time of the year, parking is more than adequate. So I'm observing different things. I'm in the park too, practically every day. And I think the museum has a large car park and is absolutely in walking distance to MAS Park. It's actually at the entrance point. So maybe there will be a possibility to do a bit more over there. Maybe enlarge that one. I stipulated in my submission that I think this whole Merz, you know, the developing a recreational facility around the memory of this guy who was a Swiss, apparently, like me. Merz, I think that's a totally silly idea. I've actually heard from one of the neighbours that it's very smelly where you're planning to do this. It's not a nice place to be. That's Colin Jackson, who lives with Sarah C, just on the other side of the road. He also thinks that doing a car park there is an absolute no-no. So it's just extend the museum if you have to. All right. Where the report, so this is my main focus, where the report about the park falls drastically short is the view that the native plants will look after themselves and that we will have lovely bush in a few years' time, replacing the pines and other exotics that were taken out. Now, I have a horticultural background, and as I said, I'm in this park practically every day walking my dog. Instead, we have an absolute jungle of invasive weeds that are threatening to choke and crowd out anything apart from some tall trees. To hope that volunteers will get on top of just asparagus burn is completely unrealistic. We need a serious investment to get contractors to spray and a huge drive for volunteers to keep weeding continually. KDC needs to budget for this. Piroa Conservation Trust, which I'm part of, had a contractor lined up very recently, but KDC's health and safety team made it impossible for the crew to respray an area that they treated last year. This was an investment of over $3,000 that the people of Mangawhai missed out on because of totally unrealistic demands from your team, such as advertising in the local paper that spraying would be happening. I've got an email here from Wendy Mosley. It's unbelievable. You're welcome to have it. The money was spent in the Whangarei district instead. Oh, what a shame. For 2 years now or more, there has been communications and meetings between various groups with Lara Stott and health and safety staff, and not much has changed. I would like to bring to your attention too that there are no minutes for such meetings, which I find unacceptable, as there will never be binding decisions without minutes. Thank you for listening. I was part of one of those meetings. I was bored.
Thank you. Thank you.
Questions?
Tina, thank you. Questions, panel? I have one then. Firstly, the talk of, just so I missed it, you talked about your group was blocked by council health and safety process from doing some spraying. What was the group? Was it the Paroa?
It was a professional team, a company that's based in it's called Impact Planting, that is based in Kawaka.
Yeah.
And the guy had been paid by Puroa Conservation Trust, and that's indirectly financed by NRC, to do asparagus fern just behind the mess. Probably the bike track is probably the best description. They did that a year ago, and now we have asparagus fern re-emerging. So really, it's really important to go over it again and then hopefully nuke it. But I organised it with Lara Stott several weeks in advance and all that. Okay, she's only working part-time at the moment. It completely fell through, and then last minute, it was like, oh, we need this and we need that and we need that, and we need to advertise and all the rest of it. And then, of course, we couldn't do it. I mean, if I would have pushed along, I would have, exposed myself to risks that I couldn't take. So they worked on the other side of the Brandowans for a couple of days, and we lost it. So that's one side of things. But the other side of things is, and that's my job, my part-time job, if I'm to set up teams who do voluntary work and weed, and we got plenty of reserves, so plenty of weeds, as I'm sure council all are aware of, we need to have a green light, We can't do that as a clandestine movement. And I'm not willing to put all that work in and get people enthusiastic about looking after the environment when we know we're not really wanted in there, and we could be exposed to problems. So what's been happening just in the last couple of days is that the trackies have apparently, and the trackies have gone through exactly the same drama, as you're probably aware of. And the trackies now have a site-specific plan that they fill in, a health and safety plan that they fill in every week, or, for every job they're doing in advance. And Glenys has sent me a template yesterday, and I've been looking at that. And that's something we could be working with. But this has been going on for 2 years. And the trackies have obviously, so I don't know why all the paperwork that we've ever seen is for contractors. And we've pointed out and said, we are not contractors, we are volunteers, we're not paid by you, etc. So hopefully.
Thank you.
End of the.
Marianne?
So Martina, can I just clarify? You're saying you understand the health and safety issues, but it's very helpful when the council is enabling, provides templates, talks about and gives some more structure so that things can actually happen. So it's not that there's any disagreement with health and safety, but it's very helpful when the council is enabling.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And can I also ask, if you were and council finances estimate what it might cost to do some of the work that you believe does need to be done by contractors in the whole of the Mangawhai Community Park, have you ever made any kind of generally what
I
they
no, haven't, but I know that Lara, I think, applied for 50,000 a year, but I don't know whether she got that. But it transpired in that first meeting you were in as well, in December last year, that council is only interested in the road front. So that, you know, she was saying that it's only what we see from Molesworth Drive that we're going to have cleared up, and everything that's behind is up to you, up to volunteers. You know, we won't be able to finance any of the back stuff. Which is the major part, and it's actually the really hard part because it's steep and all the rest of it. In my point of view, you know, it is better to start in one area and then clear that. I'm a gardener. So it's better to sort of clear one area and then spread out from there, then sort of doing a little bit there and a little bit there. And I think I think it just needs to be on the map and needs to be tackled. Because the longer we wait, the harder it's going to get to the point where it's going to become impossible.
No, thank you, Martina. Made it very clearly.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next submitter, I'm pleased to welcome Sue Pointer.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Thank you for the opportunity to present today, and I'm speaking here on behalf of Te Whai Community Trust Mangawhai. For those of you who are not that familiar with us, we're a charitable trust established in 2017. We've grown from very humble beginnings to now being well established as the primary coordinator and the only resident provider of social services in Mangawhai Rohe. We've formed strong networks with other providers. We continue to scope the psychosocial needs of the community, and we are coordinating a response to meet the local demands. With the town undergoing unprecedented growth in population and infrastructure, we have overwhelming evidence that there are inadequate community social and wellbeing services and support available for those in the community who may be struggling with life's challenges. We believe that we provide a working model of a community looking after its strength, safety and resilience, and to provide increased opportunities for community connection and to reduce barriers for access to support and participation. We are the front line and the first port of call for many of Mangawhai's more vulnerable, and we believe that any community is only as strong as its most vulnerable. We are a continually expanding service, presently based in the council-owned Rose Madsen Cottage next to the Domain, where we have reached capacity with the addition of a number of satellite buildings and now a staff of 9. From there, we provide aroha food baskets, wraparound whānau support, specialist paediatric occupational therapy for children with developmental delays and neurodiversity, youth programs, Te Whai Sages senior and whānau support, which is a visiting service coordinating trained volunteers to provide companionship to seniors and whānau with young children, Tawatia, which is an ongoing 10-week program that provides wellbeing support and connection for adults, especially women, support for grandparents raising grandchildren. We advocate for the growing demand for mental health and addiction services, domestic and sexual harm, and trauma counselling. This year to date, we have received over 500 referrals, clients. As a funded Heartlands provider, we now bring government and non-government services to Mangawhai, such as WINS, IRD, Family Court Navigators, Rangatamariki, Citizens Advice Bureau, budgeting, employment advocacy, and others. We also provide community services such as driver training, playgroups, te reo wānanga, and celebrations such as our very popular Matariki Hangi that attracted over 300 members of the community for the last 2 years. We recently employed a kaimahi rangatahi, a youth worker, who is working with youth and running a youth collective on Wednesday afternoons. This initiative has been locally funded in response to an identified need with increasing presentation of young people who are struggling to connect with the local community and find their place to reach their potential to thrive. This is in part due to the lack of a local high school that would provide a central meeting place and activities for people. In addition to the wonderful Maz Park, Mangawhai desperately needs a purpose-built facility where youth can gather safely for supervised activities, in addition to the existing recreational activities and access to support services. We understand that there is consideration for the council to build a community hub in the Mangawhai Community Park that could include some council offices and a library. We urge you to consider including a development agreement towards a future licence to occupy or to Te Community Trust within the Mangawhai Community Park with the provision of land for a purpose-built space for future relocation of some of the Te and Heartland services. Te Community Trust and Heartlands are integral to community infrastructure development. We've outgrown our present site and are actively pursuing additional sites and options for future development. We propose the establishment of a multi-purpose community and youth centre to create an inclusive hub to provide comprehensive services to enhance community cohesion and to support personal development. Te is also integral to emergency and disaster management. We played a key role during COVID, especially as a food provider, but were inhibited as a key contact point during the Gabrielle floods and the later heavy rains because of our present location in the flood zone. Te is a key safety net provider in the local area and certainly warrants the council considering the enabling of a more suitable purpose-built venue. Te has demonstrated both need and service delivery capability and is asking for your consideration to provide sustainable future-proofing of essential social services.
Thank you, Sue.
Good time.
Panel, questions? Okay, well,
Oh, I just like
Marianne.
to say, I know that Te has been able to make very limited use of a very small part of the red shed.
Can we make sure that we just frame it in question?
Yeah, but I'm just wondering, can you just comment on how successful that has been?
Yes, as you say, it's a very small space. We certainly, it has made us realise how great the need is. There's a lot of youth who congregate in the Maz Park, and actually being in the area where they congregate would be very useful for us. And having the red shed there has been a start to that. But the need for somewhere where they can have supervised activities and access to services is absolutely key to the health of our rangatahi.
Daniel?
Could I just ask, how often are you making use of the red shed at Maz? Is it like a daily thing or a weekend thing?
Can I refer to our General Manager, Kitty, to answer that question?
Okay.
We're doing, it's project by project based, so if we get some funding to do something, or if an artist, for example, wants to come in and do a project with young people, then we'll do that there. We've just finished doing quite a long project, and that was Shan Whitaker working with about 6 youth, I think it was, to give them an experience of and sort of education and commercial art work, and that's going to be built on after that. They're now doing a mural, and then after that I believe they're doing a project for KFC. So some of these projects aren't advertised so widely because we're working with young people that, you know, it's just actually it's not right to advertise. It's not an event, it's working closely one-on-one with them.
It's ridiculous.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Sue. How much space you anticipate you'll need, or shared space as well, if you anticipate your ideal facility would encompass?
How big is Mangawhai going to grow? I think we would need a space that had a large purpose-built area where youth could congregate, where we could have supervised activities that would involve a number of youth. So that's quite a large space. And as well as that, offices for therapeutic services so that they could access counselling and social work, which we're doing to a limited extent now. But so we're talking about a reasonable space. We're certainly open to collaboration with other agencies. And there's some obviously that we would work very, very closely with and very well with. So Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
But as far as actual square metre,
It's a hard one.
very large,
It's a hard,
very large. Yeah, would be good.
If I may just expand on Mr Mayor's question there, I mean, I had down, what would be required in the building, and because as I interpret from what you've said, is that actually there's a huge crossover, not just consulting or, having the ability of having youth congregate. You actually almost spill over or appear to spill over into medical.
Not so much medical as social, psychosocial, yeah.
So it seems that there is a really broad realm of need, and I think that, I thank you for bringing it
Thank you.
to the attention. It's out there.
If you look at how much services have expanded since we've been down in Rose Madston, we started off there very, very grateful for the wee cottage. We quickly outgrow that. We've sort of morphed a little bit and added as many buildings to that site as we're able. And we're at total capacity. So, that's in very many years.
Thank you. Mr Mayor.
oh, just one more question that you brought to light there about you expanding provision for services. Are you dealing just in Mangawhai, or are you finding that the rest of the middle part of our district, Toronto, reaching through to you as well?
No, we have been quite clear that our rohe is the greater Mangawhai area. So we go as far as Kaiwaka and upwards Waipu, but we don't go up to Mangawhai. However, we do collaborate with the services over there. So, and with the ones in Kaiwaka, so we make sure that, we are making sure that everybody has access to those services, and we collaborate with them. Different projects are funded to different areas, so that's how it works.
Thanks, Sue.
All right, thank you very much.
So now I'd like to introduce Peter Rothwell. Thank you, Peter.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm Peter Rothwell. I'm a licensed surveyor. I just work across the road sometimes, development stuff. I'm honoured to be here to express my views. Now, it's very innocent, great to hear Sue speak about what her group does, and it's just, lets you know what goes on in the community behind the scenes, beneath the scenes. You don't even hear about it. When you're in need, it comes and helps you. So very, very important. But my submission was about two things. The first was about excluding commercial development from Mangawhai Park. Now, this includes civic facilities. I mean, you can argue that for community, but with civic facilities, they're not the reason for a park. It doesn't fit the local government act definition of a park. Second one is we've got to do more to treat our stormwater before it reaches our precious harbour and pollutes our harbour and our kaimoana. We're doing nothing at the moment. The park is a good opportunity, 30 hectares of land which we can manage to do something about it. There's talk of diggers cutting trenches through it to get rid of the stormwater quickly, and I see diggers in wetlands clearing weeds, which is not allowed under the National Policy Statement for Fresh Water. I see the wastewater treatment plant right on the edge of a wetland. It's supposed to be 10 metres clear. I don't see resource consents. Now, the park is valued for its community, recreational, environmental and cultural values. This fits the local government act criteria for owning and operating a park. But various activities have been allowed in the park which don't fit the current Mangawhai Park master plan. The council has to operate under the master plan. I don't see how a wastewater plant contributes to community, recreational, environmental or spiritual values. That's what the park's there for. The wastewater plant's been snuck in where no one sees it, but it is not doing what it's not part of a mandate for the park. I see value in the fire station and ambulance service, and the museum's a great asset. They encourage community input and they're run by locals. It fits perfectly, they fit perfectly within limits. It's not the case for a wastewater plant. Any extension of a plant must be carefully considered against purposes of a park. It's not the right of council to use this land for infrastructure, which can go anywhere. And it's not the right of council to put its council buildings there either. It's also noticeable, local government act doesn't allow leases of more than 6 months. So if there's a lease of more than 6 months, it'll be called it's probably an illegal contract. Anyway, it's incidental. So I encourage the panel to delete the paragraph on page 11, getting longer term commercial options. There's no place in the park for commercial activities. Now, the second point was Mangawhai Park is going forward as a community asset, but it's not looking so good ecologically as per Martina. It's, you know, since it's been a park since 2014, I guess, it's has been, you know, it's slowly been deteriorating. The wetlands are not looking so good. The Martica stands aren't looking so good. It's just slowly getting impinged on. The council has neglected stormwater treatment to such an extent that this is one of the last remaining wetland areas which can help our stormwater problems. There's 3 wetlands recognised in the park, and although they've been a bit damaged by earth moving equipment in recent years, they're still in quite good condition. They can be used in a treatment network. I mean, seriously, kilometres of stormwater pipe have gone on the ground in Mangawhai over the last 10 years, and there's been no stormwater treatment. You know, the RMA requires it, the Town and Company Planning Act required it, the Soil and Water Conservation Act required it in 1967, and this council isn't doing it. There's a major gap somewhere. They run up from roads and commercial areas disappears into a harbour, but we know that untreated stormwater damages our harbour. And we can only look at the recent reports on the Waitemata Harbour, and they're saying that there's no shellfish left. Well, when I was there 30 or 40 years ago, there was plenty of shellfish. So it's something we don't see. It drains off the roads into the harbour, and it slowly gets into the bottom of the harbour and doesn't seem to come back. So I'd like to see a hydrological survey of the park done, see if it's feasible to have a stormwater treatment network run through the park. There's talk of it. It's been discussed in 2014 current master plan. It's discussed in this plan. It's discussed in a long-term plan, but nothing has been done. Sorry, it was a bit jumbled, but that's my submission.
Thank you, Peter. No. David, questions, panel? Thank you, Daniel.
I would ask you the same question as I asked Mike in regards to the commercial area. You said there's no place for commercial activity. Would you be at all flexible on that if those commercial entities helped fund the charitable trusts within the park, the way Cafe Maz does or the cafe in the museum does? If there was an area that sort of tied into the park and money went back to those trusts, would that be?
I don't know if fundraising is the right idea, but I think serving the community is a good idea. The coffee cart's a good idea, and things which, you know, when people come around, it's a useful thing to have. It's a small amount of money out of it. I don't think it should be seen as a commercial enterprise. That's not why it's not there to make money. It's there as a community asset.
That's it.
Okay. I have one with Peter. Just going back to what you were talking about with stormwater treatment, what was the survey you talked about, the park?
Hydrological survey.
Hydrological.
Get something done at the golf course about using, you know, disposing of wastewater for the golf course. So it's something similar to that.
Yeah, and so are you aware of what is happening?
There's not much published, it's all hearsay, but I have read something that if we're going to irrigate the golf course with wastewater, it's going to need to be treated to a higher standard. And obviously last year when they tested the golf course, it was pretty wet, so it gave them a good example of what could happen. But that's wastewater, that's not stormwater. Wastewater, like you can tip millions of litres of wastewater into a harbour like we did in Auckland, and it recovers quite quickly. You put stormwater into a harbour and it doesn't come back. Copper and zinc, they don't decompose. They're stuck in your benthic area forever. It's also very hard to retrofit. So I'm going to be quite insistent on this. We have to get onto it now. What we've done, you just about can't retrofit it. It's a matter of going forwards and trying to get it right from now on.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Peter. Thank you for your contribution.
Thanks very much.
And so, we'd like to invite Belinda Harmon to the seat.
Thank you for the opportunity and your time today. I'm a volunteer with St John and we really appreciate our little part of the park and being able to operate from there. But I'm speaking today on behalf of a number of residents of Palmer Road South who are concerned about the proposal for a car park and picnic area alongside the wastewater treatment plant. So I'd like to reiterate what I said in my submission. The road, Palmer Road South, is not safe. There's no footpaths. Residents walk along the edge of the road, which has steep drops into water ditches. In many parts, there's no room for pedestrians and 2 cars each way, and heavy vehicles operate in and out of the wastewater treatment plant. There's no road markings, and there's been a number of accidents and near misses on driveways that are obscured just around bends. So if the car park at the end of Palmer Road South was to go ahead, some serious thought needs to be put into upgrading Palmer Road South, given the increase in traffic. Although the council have already stated it's not viable for a footpath there. More land down Palmer Road South has recently been sold to be subdivided, so you'll get a lot more pedestrians on this dangerous road. And residents have concerns about just with the car park area being off the beaten track, it could become a haven for troublemakers, miscreants, freedom campers. Years back, we used to collect pine cones around the Mertz Hut area, and it was a mess with bottles and jars, drug paraphernalia, and there were many nights there were parties and people sleeping in cars there. It's now overgrown with asparagus weed up to your waist. So if a car park goes ahead, it would need to be monitored with lighting, cameras and a locked gate that would be closed between dusk and dawn. And we question the spending of money here when there's plenty of parking at MAS, the museum, and a new car park adjacent to the museum. So that takes me to the picnic area. There's so many beautiful spots in Mangawhai for a picnic. Why go next to a wastewater treatment plant where the grinder pump is so noisy and the smells are so bad during the summer months, and you've also got heavy vehicles coming and going out of the wastewater treatment plant. There's nothing nice here. This week I walked every day with a dog, which I do every day, and 4 out of the 6 days it was smelly. And why make an area of significance because of a squatter who didn't pay rates? So I've stated lots of negatives here, but we're all struggling to see any positives to the car parks and picnic area proposal. But my third point for my submission is about the bittern. These are endangered birds. There's only 750 approximately left in New Zealand, and they live in the wetland behind the wastewater treatment plant. We've seen numerous times we see them along the Palmer Road South area in the drains. So, and they've been monitored. I'm involved with a project with Alex Flavel-Johnson. He also put a submission in to try and monitor the birds and save them in this area. So we listen to their booms in the spring, and we believe that increased traffic will be detrimental for these birds. But most importantly, we wouldn't want a cycleway or a new walking path through the wetland area on the north side of the wastewater treatment plant. I thought it was a bit vague on the map and the plan, and the council tried to put a cycleway through 2 years ago. They were stopped by the Northland Regional Council, but that's where the birds actually breed, right there. So there is an existing path, walkway around the wetland area, and this should be prioritised rather than going straight through the wetland and disturbing their natural habitat. That's me. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Thank you, Sue. Questions, panel? I have one, I'll start it. On the, with the bit, and you talk about the wetland and you talk about the area just to the north. So as I recall, you come down off, I think it's Paul's Track. Yeah, Paul's Track, and it comes down, and you say, it was you suggesting that council were putting through a wider path for cycles. It's just within about 50 metres of the plant, is that correct?
So the Olsons have the 11 acres at the very end of Tharma Road South. So it's between there and where the path on Paul's Track is a big wetland area. And that's where the council tried to put a path through. But that's pretty much where they breed.
But that is quite a lot further along from the treatment plant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, to the north side, yeah.
Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. Anybody else? Okay, well, thank you very much.
Lovely, thank you.
Belinda, thank you very much. And again, thank you to all of our contributors and submitters and you know, especially those who have come today and all of those who have submitted overall. But we come to a closure of the meeting. So I'll declare the meeting closed. Thank you.